welcome back to Views in a Pod. We're back with another fun IGTV video that I kind of just thought of because I've seen other podcasts do it and I wanted to kind of be creative. So I hope the format of this all makes sense. But before we get into the draft that we're going to do, as we're drafting Princeton alumni for our dinner tables, we have two very, very special guests. I can't believe I got both of you to join me for very good reason. You were the first two people that came to my mind because we're drafting Princeton alumni. And so I was thinking recent 2021 Princeton alumni. And obviously Morgan, Joe, if you don't know them, are very special people to the Princeton community. So before we jump into the draft, I think we should all go around, say our names, our pronouns, where we currently are, and what you might be doing in 5-10 years.
That's good. I like that.
I'm one of the hosts, so I feel like people watching this probably know me already. But Susan, she, her, and 5-10 years, honestly, I'm either in law school, still thinking about going to law school, or writing for a newspaper.
I'm Nathan. I hope people know me as well. I'm one of the hosts. He, him. I'm currently in London. It's a very hot day, so the UK is going crazy for the heat. And in 5 to 10 years' time, I hope I would have graduated, and then I'd be in some cool startup. Maybe I think I'll be working in America for some cool like engineering startup, something like that.
Hey y'all, my name is Morgan. My pronouns are she, her. I'm currently in Long Beach, California, and some quick math. In 5 to 10 years, probably around 5, I'll be fresh out of law school looking for a job.
And yeah, hey, I'm Joe. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm zooming in from Denver, Colorado. You know, in 5 to 10 years, I anticipate riding the wave of celebrity that this podcast appearance starts me on, you know. No, but I think I'll actually be like Morgan as well. You know, hopefully have graduated from law school, but, you know, perhaps uncertain about what I'm doing after that.
I honestly don't know why I said writing for newspaper like that. I feel like I give that a 2% possibility in my life. So this draft, basically the idea is we are drafting like a sports draft for alumni who we want to have dinner with. And this dinner table is one big gathering. So we're not having one-on-one dinners. We are compiling for people to have one big dinner with. And at the end of this, we're going to ask you, whoever's watching, who drafted the most interesting dinner table. This was tough to plan for because Princeton alumni are not as interesting as one might expect. We have a lot of award winners in certain physics categories or whatnot, but we honestly don't have that many traditional celebrities. So this was interesting, but we're not going for fame here. We're going for interesting. We'll support each answer that we give, and we'll see who drafts the most interesting table. And then in terms of the order, I'm going to roll a 4-sided die. Before this, we already determined what number each person is. And then from there, we'll go clockwise and then snake back around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, and etc. And hopefully by the end, we all have 4 picks. And that is the game. Are we ready?
Let's go.
All right, yep. So I'm going to roll this die. Okay, 4 is Nathan. So, all right, so it's going to be Nathan, me, Joe, Morgan. And then Morgan, you're going to get to go again. Morgan, Joe, Susan, Nathan, et cetera, et cetera. Another key rule is that we can't draft 2 of the same type of person, meaning they can't have the same job, they can't have the same primary accomplishment. So you can't have 2 authors at your table, you can't have 2 politicians. That is also kind of to emulate a sports draft, right? You know, in basketball, you want your center, you want your point guard. Here, you want a diverse dinner table. But take it away, Nathan.
Okay, cool. So when I was researching all of this stuff, I feel like I try to get in everyone's heads, you know, to try and figure out who wanted who. And I feel there's one very obvious person, and I decided to avoid said person like completely. And I'm like quite happy with my list, so I'm gonna avoid that person. And the first person, and this is my top person now, is Alan Turing. He was like the one that I really wanted. I recently watched The Imitation Game, very good movie. He's like a father of computing and helped with the war as well. So cool guy. And he's English as well.
No, that's a good pick. I would be a bit nervous to eat dinner with like a genius. I'm sure it'd make a great conversation.
I know. Given that I almost failed Princeton's introductory computer science class, yeah, Alan might be a bit disappointed in me. But.
So I am now conflicted because there is that one person who I feel like everyone would want at their dinner table. And I have the second pick. So why wouldn't I take her? You know what I mean? At the same time, I have a couple. Okay, I have to do it. I would love Michelle Obama to be at my dinner table. I know she wasn't the biggest fan of Princeton, but this isn't a Princeton themed dinner. You know, I'm just having dinner with these people. I'm never going to meet her ever again in my life. I read your book, Michelle. I am such a huge fan. And I think she also belongs in a category of her own, right? Like she's not, say, a typical politician. She's not a typical author. You know, she's done so many things in her life. But there's so many questions I would obviously want to ask Michelle, but also get to know her outside of what she's famous for, have a fun chat. I feel like she's just someone you can talk about anything with. She would give great advice. I had to do it. All right.
The only thing I would contest is you not ever getting the chance to meet her again. I would think that like you would be successful enough one day to be in the same room.
To meet Michelle Obama. That is wow, that is flattering.
Absolutely.
So maybe it's actually a bad dinner table selection because you're gonna have dinner with her already. So like it's redundant.
I think okay, you know, we'll have to see because I have three other picks, right? And this isn't just a one-on-one dinner. So this is my opportunity to see this dynamic form in front of me. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been shocked if third in the selections if Michelle Obama was still available. Mm-hmm. But I will first pick Sonia Sotomayor. One of the preeminent legal minds of our time. I also think she has an extremely interesting and inspirational story of how she got to the Supreme Court. And I feel like in her rulings and in the way she approaches the law, she has a very humane disposition and never loses sight of the humans that are behind the constitutional issues that are at stake. And I think that really sets her apart from a lot of the other formative legal minds. So I would absolutely love to meet her. She also just seems extremely nice. I think it'd be very easy to have a conversation with her. So that's my first pick.
Damn, are you going to law school or something, Joe?
So for my first person, I'm going to pick Danielle Allen. She's the class of 93. She's a political theorist and a professor at Harvard. She has a bunch of cool stuff, so I'm not going to run through her whole resume. She was a recipient of the 2001 MacArthur Fellowship for her writing on democracy and citizenship, which I'll stick a pin in for later because I really tried to lean into okay, what's the whole dynamic of the table, and hopefully that becomes more apparent with later picks. But I also just think she's super cool because she's currently in a historic bid for the Massachusetts governor race in 2022, and she's the first Black woman to run for office. So I would be really excited to sit down and just pick through her mind about all the cool things she's up to.
That's awesome. Fun. I've met Danielle Allen.
You have?
Oh, really?
Yeah, actually, she was visiting Princeton. And it was somehow she was involved in the University Center for Human Values. She was part of the oversight board or something. And so she was it's very cool. Yeah, she seems.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, no, she's at the top of my list.
I was I already had dinner with her. Yeah, Danielle Allen seems like such a cool person. And you get the next pick as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. So I was a bit nervous about this one.
Okay.
But I was inspired by the after dinner conversations I have with my family. We used to have them almost like every Sunday growing up at my grandma and grandpa's house. And these conversations, like they're pleasant to me, but it's not like small talk. Like once we're done eating, we're like debating and trying to figure out the world's problems that formed a lot of me. And so I was trying to think if I had to pick any Princeton alum for Daniel Allen to talk to, specifically because again, she's like an expert on democracy and ethics. I am going to resurrect the fourth president of the United States, James Madison. He's not only founder of the nation, but of the Whig Party as well, of the American Whig Classical Society. Shout out to my folks. And so, you know, as the father of the Constitution, purportedly, I couldn't think of a better person like Daniel Allen to kind of hold his feet to the fire on what it means to be a nation founded on liberty and justice, but also like the legacy of slavery, given that Madison was the owner of 100 enslaved people. So again, I'm going for like, not like, I'm kind of heated debate. I just want to see like these two great minds go at it, and I'll just sit there eating my appetizer, taking it all in. So yeah.
I think Morgan has won. Very interesting. James Madison was somewhere on my list, but I actually ended up just being like, I can't imagine speaking to James Madison. I don't think he would even look at me. So
That's the thing. He would be forced to sit down and eat dinner. And I just like, so his mind would already be blown at that point. But I'm hoping that my other picks have him in for a ride as well. So we'll see.
And also, depending on your view of the universe, right? Like you could change the present, because if you're taking James Madison from the past and bringing him to the future, and then he goes back to the past, like the present's changed, you know? You could change the world.
No, time travel would be interesting if anyone else watched Loki. I'd love to get your thoughts on the time travel.
All right, it's you, Joe.
All right, wow. Well, that is a very tough act to follow up on. Yes, there's some excellent thinking going on at Morgan's table. Yeah, you know, so I picked a jurist, which I guess you could kind of say is under politics, but I'm going to kind of shoehorn it into a different category. So yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Danielle Allen with the governor bid, because I was thinking of picking Andrea Campbell, who's running for Boston mayor. You know, another sort of Massachusetts, you know, in the race there. I'm also moving to Boston in a few months, so I'd absolutely love to hear her take on all sorts of local issues. I feel like she'd be an absolutely fascinating person. Also, you know, interesting dialogue with Sotomayor insofar as, you know, they're sort of thinking about some of the same issues, but from obviously completely different places. So that would be my second pick.
It's a dope pick. That's really cool. Like not only like local politics that always needs more shine, but she was also on the Prince's most influential politicians list last year.
Yes,
so,
yes, exactly. Actually, it's funny. I was consulting that list before this call. Yeah, I was helping the source.
I think politician is different. I think it is very different from Supreme Court justice. Though we are delving into very political categories, which is why I am deciding to take Mackenzie Bezos. No, I don't want Jeffrey. Don't want him near my table. I really want Mackenzie. I think Mackenzie and Michelle could have very interesting conversation, number one, that I would just love to listen to. But I don't know that much about her. She is famous because of her husband, kind of. Obviously, she is a very accomplished woman on her own, but Jeff Bezos is famous for the regime that he has built. I want to know what it is like to be married to the reason why we are impatient waiting for our orders to arrive. But also, what is your game plan for where you're donating these billions of dollars? You know, right. I want to know that, because obviously she has started to donate a lot of money. And I'm sure having that interesting sense of power, but also, you know, in a way that it's not necessarily because she has a huge platform, it's just she has a lot of money. How do you best handle that? I think she could spill some very interesting tea I would love to have Mackenzie Bezos on my dinner table. And yeah, that is my second round pick.
Awesome
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah. I also remember, I think I read somewhere that like she had Toni Morrison as a professor, and Toni Morrison called her like one of the most gifted students or writers that I've ever taught. Yeah, I think that's a great pick. And definitely, not one that you might, obviously Jeff is, but I think I'd much rather have Mackenzie on my tip.
Absolutely.
So I was getting very scared when Morgan was describing James Madison, because I thought it was going to be my next pick. And even though Susan has shied away from him, I'm going to take him. He's coming to my dinner table. Jeffrey is coming. And Jeffrey Bezos. But the reasoning is I'm gonna come, I'm gonna be prepared, I'm gonna get my laptop, maybe give him a presentation. I'm gonna try and change the world through Jeffrey. I'm gonna change his ways. I'm gonna make him a changed man. That would be my one gift to the world. Changing Amazon into like a world-changing business instead of what it is now. So I think I got away with getting him at my table. I had to get one little dodgy one in there at least, and then I get another pick, right?
Yeah, but can you imagine Jeffrey Bezos and Alan Turing just like sitting down and having a conversation?
to be honest, I didn't really think about it as a group. I kind of just thought about it as cool people.
That's like a pretty intimidating table.
Oh yeah, but also like my next person, I hope is going to back me up a little bit with converting Jeffrey to the good side. And my next pick is Cornel West. So hopefully he's going to be on my side. I think I'm kind of going for the Cornel West look right now. My beard's growing out, my hair's a bit crazy. Obviously, he's in the news recently for resigning from Harvard, and all around just like a very insightful, knowledgeable, amazing person. I think he can give a lot of good life advice and just advice in general. And obviously, tag team Jeffrey Bezos with me.
Cornel West, and this I know you wouldn't normally think of this as like a dinner. But if you needed some entertainment afterward, Cornel West can dance. He came to a AC show one time, and he went up during intermission and just killed it. So fun fact, but he's awesome.
I'm a little conflicted. I have my the one person I really want at my table. I really don't think anyone else is going to take. So I think I'm going to hold off until the fourth round.
Ooh, so that's risky. That's risky.
I know it's risky, but I have a feeling this other person might be more. You know what? No, I have to do it. I really want this person. Syngman Rhee. He was the first Korean graduate of Princeton and the first president of the Republic of Korea, which is South Korea. Very controversial. He began as an advocate against Japanese occupation. So he became this, this praised figure in Korean politics. Then he took refuge in the US. He got his PhD from Princeton I believe it was 1910, which is a completely different time. But then he goes back to South Korea, or the Republic. He goes back to Korea. He becomes elected as the first president of the Republic of Korea. And then he imposes this very anti-communist, pro-American regime that turns borderline authoritarian. He puts out a lot of protests. There's a lot of violence. He is the president at the outbreak of the Korean War, and he ends up having to resign because of the amount of protests against him. So very polarizing figure, but also very unique. If you're a Princeton graduate in 1910, that's interesting on its own, but being the first president of Korea, that's pretty darn big. And obviously, as a Korean American, I obviously want to talk to him. But yeah, I think that'd be interesting. I didn't really think about him speaking with Michelle Obama. I didn't think I'd get Michelle Obama, but I didn't think of, them speaking, or even Mackenzie Bezos. So the dynamic there is a little interesting. I don't know if I even want him there. I kind of just want to talk to Mackenzie and Michelle. Maybe for dessert, I'll talk to Syngman on his own. No, I don't think we have that choice. But yeah, that's my third pick.
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating pick, and would lead to a very interesting dinner time conversation.
And it is your third pick, Joe.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, well, I guess I'll pick an academic this time, since Princeton is a university. I guess I'd say John Rawls, mainly because I can't understand his ideas in book form. So hopefully I, get a little more breakthrough if he was talking to me, and, I could actually get him to explain it to me. But I feel like he'd be an interesting, I actually didn't know anything about Rawls before I went to college. So for any listeners out there who are confused, don't worry. He's sort of huge political theorist, thinking about justice in society. But I also think it'd be interesting to compare sort of when he was writing, many decades ago to now, and sort of ways in which maybe he would see sort of the problems confronting society as the same, and ways in which things have changed since then. And maybe, or is there a way for his ideas to be updated from like the 60s and 70s into sort of 21st century, society in America, or really, I guess, across the world. So I'd say Rawls.
Word to Rawls, man. This throwback to, what was it, ethics and public policy? No, that's
Yeah,
dope.
exactly.
Yeah, if you take a politics class at Princeton, you're gonna hear Rawlsian like a lot.
I'm just thinking Rawls had this idea of not to get too in the weeds, but he had this idea of like the quote unquote original position where no one knew who they were. So at my dinner table, I guess we'd all be anonymous and no one would have any idea who they actually were. So like, for all intents and purposes, I could just be like Sonia Sotomayor, and she could be me or something, at this dinner table to apply his idea.
I love the original. Sorry, again, not to get like too much into the weeds, but it just seems so fair that like, okay, how do we imagine society? Well, what would it be like to be the worst off? I just, that's an awesome pick. I feel like that has a lot to offer the conversation. So that's dope.
Mm-hmm. I believe you have third and fourth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So with my next pick, I promise, I think like the fourth one will lighten it up a little. But for the fourth one, this was a bit more of a selfish pick, only because I wish I got the chance to meet him before he passed away in 2014. My next pick is John Doerr. He's of the class of 1944. He was the Assistant Attorney General of the Civil Rights Division for the Department of Justice, like during the critical years of the Civil Rights Movement. This man was just amazing, like always putting himself in life-threatening situations, like think Deep South, 1960s Mississippi. He prosecuted civil rights violations and race-motivated murders. So just truly look up to this guy. So yeah, fellow SPU major as well. So I feel like, again, like this conversation between Madison and Danielle, that he would also be able to add some cool stuff in there too. So, also, Professor Kevin Cruz is writing a book on Doerr. I'm looking forward to reading soon. Cruz is just so cool in of himself as well. So looking forward to reading that.
I feel like your table is very, I feel like it could get very heated.
Yeah. So
like you have James
worry.
Madison, Danielle Allen, and John Doerr. Can we just talk about how that could turn into fire?
Well, I'm kind of hoping that, we're all adults, that we, right. Of course, some people are like diametrically opposed at that point. But I do think that, if we're able to conduct ourselves, we have good food too, that it'll be a cool conversation nonetheless. Even if, we walk away not agreeing on anything, I would still look forward to something interesting like that,
All right. Who is your fourth and final pick?
Right. So this is kind of like my wild card, because again, I know that we're leaning kind of political. I was really inspired by this next guy because I've always wanted to be an astronaut. Like I went to space camp during high school, like full suit, flew the shuttle, crashed the shuttle. It was a lot of fun. So I would pick Charles Pete Conrad of the class of 53. He's an astronaut and the third man to walk on the moon in 1969. He also carried the Princeton flag with him, which I just thought was really cool. He commanded the first Skylab mission, which is the first US space station as well. And at that time, he set the record for 28 days in space. He also he majored in aeronautical engineering at Princeton, and he was the first Ivy League astronaut. So yeah, he just seems really cool. I think that if the conversation got too serious, that we could kind of like distract Madison by being like, we put a guy on the moon. And being like, what are you talking about, the moon? So yeah, I do think that kind of like, again, like that wild card presence will kind of like change up the dynamic, and I would just really enjoy seeing that conversation. So,
I almost feel bad for him.
right?
Right,
Like
like
worldview.
because of the
Exactly.
other three, but no, you definitely spiced it up with that astronaut pick.
Yeah, it's an out of this world pick, you know.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, no, I didn't even know Princeton had a alumni who were astronauts. So this is very impressive research. Or maybe you already knew this, but either way, I'm very impressed.
I didn't.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, fourth and final pick.
I don't really like being after Morgan because I think my table seems a little lackluster after that. Yeah, I guess my fourth pick is kind of for selfish reasons. I would pick Thornton Wilder. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. He was a playwright, won 3 Pulitzer Prizes. He wrote Our Town, if any of you have ever encountered that, which is like a very famous high school play because it like requires very little like set. It's very easy to put on. So I acted in Our Town as George Gibbs, for anyone who's familiar. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to and the play also premiered in McCarter Theater, so right on campus, basically. So I think it'd be cool to connect with someone, like an artist more so. And I don't do as much theater now, but still, I think it would be an interesting pick.
Who is this person?
His name's Thornton Wilder.
Thornton Wilder.
Yeah. So he wrote a bunch of little novels and plays. I think Our Town is the most famous, which is about sort of like tracks life in this small town and. I want to say Vermont, although maybe it's New Hampshire. I should probably know that. But yeah, it's sort of about like it's focuses on like these minute little like daily happenings, but sort of like extrapolates a existential sort of message from the daily passage of time. Yeah, it's pretty good. So.
Wait, Joe, am I hearing that you used to do theater too?
I did, yeah. In high school,
That's
I
awesome.
did a bunch of plays. So yes, that's right.
So.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of knew that, but reminding me of that, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now I just want to see Joe in a theater.
I know. If you scroll far enough down my Instagram, you'll see me in like, the costume for it. And yeah, it's an interesting picture. You have like the little like hat and, like 19th century style clothing. So yeah, it's a fun time.
I think Morgan and Joe have the definitely the more specific, deeper dinner table discussions versus, Nathan with Jeff Bezos. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I also wasn't really thinking about like the overall composition. I was just like, I really want these people.
Yeah.
Maybe like, for my own sake, but for the sake of like the company and the conversation, maybe I should have thought more like, balancing it out, which I think Morgan did an exemplary job of doing. But I'm also curious to hear Susan and Nathan's last picks because, who knows, they could also have some crazy.
It's so obvious to me that Nathan and I are the ones who haven't graduated yet. You know what I mean? We're still in that idealistic phase when we just want to meet famous people. I have so many options. After we wrap this up, we can definitely give our honorable mentions just because I feel like there are some names we have to mention. But I will go with Lauren Bush, the niece of GW Bush, because I feel like she could give some drama to the conversation. We have Michelle Obama at our table, who is older, wiser. We have Mackenzie Bezos, and obviously very powerful women. Lauren Bush, not as heavily in the spotlight of politics or anything. I know she started her own business, foundation, organization, something. I honestly don't know that much about her, but being the niece of George W. Bush, that's a very interesting position to be in, right? I want to know what her politics are like. How right-wing are you? How influenced is that by the fact that your uncle was the president during a certain war, I want to know all about her own perspective, separated from everything else. I think I'm pretty happy with my table. I think Lauren Bush would be very interesting.
Another interesting fact, so apparently she married the son of Ralph Lauren. So her, if she took on her husband's name, it would be Lauren Lauren, which is
also, it might be interesting to hear Michelle and Lauren trade Secret Service stories.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, like what was the craziest thing like you had to do? Because when you're in that close relation to people with like crazy power, and I'm sure even Mackenzie might get some of that as well. So that's an interesting dynamic.
And I think Michelle is, I think, a little less this way, but Michelle, Mackenzie, and Lauren are not, Michelle being a first lady and Mackenzie being Jeff Bezos' wife. I feel like, you often get undercredited for your own achievements. And so I'm sure even Lauren, even though she's dating, that's so crazy to me, but also not surprising, the son of Ralph Lauren or whatever. I'm sure even her, she's known as George Bush's niece or something like that. And she's, you don't really get to create your own persona. So I'm sure they could also bond over that as well.
Okay, time for my fourth pick. Oh, also, I bet I'm really curious how that relationship came about. Like, there must have been like some crazy party with like all the A-listers, all the politicians, everything. But my fourth pick is like purely a fanboy pick, simply because he's an actor, and I'll just say his name is Wentworth Miller.
I know who this is, yeah.
Yeah, so in like high school, there was a period of time where like all of my friend group were watching Prison Break. Like, I have no idea why. So we would all go around calling each other Michael Scofield. So that, like, it's purely a fanboy thing. Like, whenever I look at the alumni list, I think, oh, Wentworth Miller, like, he was in a cool show. And he's in The Flash as well. I used to watch The Flash a lot. Like, I don't know much about the guy. I know like next to nothing about him, but he just seems like a cool person. And I'd love to rack his brains. Also, actors are just like a strange breed of people. So like racking a brain of an actor, like especially someone that successful, I think would be really interesting. Like, again, it really doesn't mix with the rest of my people. But I just went for the individuals, I think, and hope that they get along.
Kind of disappointed you have no women at your table, Nathan.
Yeah, I just realized that I'm disappointed in myself, to be honest.
Are you happy with your picks, Nathan? Was that your four? Was that the four you wanted?
Yeah. What was that tone about? What was that tone?
I'm just wondering, did anyone not get something that they wanted? Everyone got what they wanted?
Yeah, that was my dream table. I was like, I really hope I'll fix these other people. I was a bit worried about Daniel Allen. And because we have so many future lawyers in the room, I was kind of worried about John Doerr too, but I got everyone I wanted.
I was really worried about Cornel West. I thought Morgan was going to go straight for him.
He was, because I really tried to not go for like name brand people. He would have been like, dang, everyone picked all my like obscure people, because he just seems like such a fun personality. Yeah. So he would have been like my honorable mention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so to recap, we have Nathan sitting at a table with Alan Turing, Jeffrey Bezos. I don't know why I said his full name. He doesn't deserve that. Cornel West and Wentworth Miller. I think you might have the most diversity in terms of expertise. You have Cornell, and then you have Bezos Turing, Turing is a completely different field, and an actor. So very interesting. I'm at a table with Michelle Obama, Mackenzie Bezos, Lauren Bush, and Syngman Rhee.
It's very on brand.
You think?
Yeah, I think so.
And then we have Joe sitting with Justice Sotomayor, Andrea Campbell, John Rawls, and Thornton Wilder. I'm learning a lot, to be honest, about these interesting alumni. And then Morgan, like you said, James Madison, you have Danielle Allen, John Doerr, and Charles Pete Conrad, an astronaut. I think we drafted some pretty interesting tables, very different from each other. I don't think there's a clear winner here. I think we drafted to our own interests, which you always love to see. But I would love to hear some honorable mentions. Who would you like to have coffee with outside of this table? Who is someone who you would still want to meet? Because in my opinion, there honestly aren't that many. Looking at these alumni lists, obviously all these people are super cool, but kind of like you were talking about, Morgan, earlier, there is a chance you meet some of these people, especially if you go to Princeton. They might visit, all of that. So it's not insane that you're going to meet some of these people in your life. For me personally, I consider Michael Lewis, who is the author of Moneyball, Big Short. He's done so many political books.
Wow.
very, very famous. I actually have never read a Michael Lewis book, so I thought that would be fraudulent of me, but I've watched movies written based on his books. So that would have been really interesting. Obviously, F. Scott Fitzgerald would be very interesting of a pick. I thought that it's a little flashy, but yeah, anyone else?
So I think Mark Milley was somewhat a bit higher up on my list. I don't know, like he's just been in the news a lot lately and he's seen a lot in the past 2 years. So I thought that'd be really cool. But like my serious honorable mention, there's someone in the class of 1963. His name's Jeff Moss. He was a co-founder and writer for Sesame Street. And I was just like, yo, like you were just so formative for my childhood. He's credited with creating Cookie Monster and Oscar the Grouch.
Wow.
Which are just like huge. So yeah, I would probably love to grab coffee and be like, thank you for shaping my childhood.
Didn't Bob Mueller go to Princeton?
Class of 66, I think. Yeah.
Also someone who knows a lot. David Petraeus, former CIA director. Yeah, there are definitely some security people you can get on your table. I don't know if they'll like tell you anything, but it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I remember in this, I was in a human rights politics class, and I think for like sometimes for the quizzes, there'd be like other random IDs from like contemporary political figures. So Bob Mueller was one of them. And then afterwards, the professor's like, guys, like it doesn't count as a fact that he graduated from Princeton. He has like a list of like facts about him. And like everyone knew he went to Princeton, but other people were like, I don't know what he actually does. So that was funny. That was like the fact that everyone actually goes down. Yeah.
Obviously, Justice Kagan also went to Princeton. Ellie Kemper is, she's a popular, kind of had a recent controversy. I don't know if you saw that. She was like it's honestly really interesting of a story, but she was 19 and crowned this princess of a white supremacist organization, basically. And no one knew about this, even though I think Ellie Kemper is pretty famous as an actress. Wendy Kopp, founder of Teach for America. I think I'd have a lot of interesting questions because I know Teach for America is very lauded, but also you can get in the weeds about, what works, what doesn't work.
John Forbes Nash. No one said that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say him. Yeah, I literally watched A Beautiful Mind like a week ago.
Honestly, yeah, that's a pretty Beautiful Mind. Such a good movie. But he's pretty famous. Ralph Nader. How does it feel to give the election to Bush? Steve Forbes. We have a lot of big company people. We have Forbes. We have Amazon. Do not want Ted Cruz at my table. Is there anyone who you don't want at your table? Like just would actually refuse to sit down with them?
It's got to be Woodrow, right? It's got to be Woodrow.
Would you not even like have a dinner? Yeah, I don't know. Probably not. Even Ted Cruz, like I don't want to have dinner with him, but that'd be funny as hell.
Yeah. Madison was even kind of a stretch because I was like, this guy, but again, kind of like for the value of like, okay, let's see you defend yourself, like all the stuff you did. But
exactly.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of people who I'd be like, no, you can't sit with us.
I mean, I could probably tolerate Jeff Bezos, but like, given how much power he has over society and our lives, it would be kind of empowering to say, I'm sorry, you can't sit here, Jeffrey.
Very true.
You like invite him and then turn him away.
Yeah.
Nathan, you'd have to give the question in for me. Jeffrey, really, why haven't you solved world hunger today? You have to get that question in for me.
You have to get that in.
I'm going to ask you all the questions. Don't worry. That presentation is going to be amazing. Like a good 50 slides long.
He's leaving. He's out of there. We have Bill Bradley is a pretty famous alum. He played for the Knicks. He was a 3-term U.S. Senator for New Jersey. Ethan Coen, I don't know if y'all know the Coen brothers, but they're really famous film directors.
My brother and I have gotten so into The Big Lebowski over quarantine. We just like randomly, we were always beside.
The Coen brothers they are 2 directors I'm not as well versed in, even though I love movies, but yeah, I haven't seen a lot of movies. Lisa Perez Jackson, she was the Obama appointed head of the EPA. She was an engineer at Princeton. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, Princeton produces famous people, but a lot of them I feel like end up becoming behind the scenes brains. We have a lot of, I feel like in my grade, even just thinking about it, we have a lot of characters who are like, I'm running for president one day. So we definitely have a lot of big personalities, but often it's politics related or something like that. But we're not going to have a fine arts genius walking out of our schools every day, which is something that I feel like would be so cool. But we definitely have some smart people. Well, that wraps up our draft. Thank you, Morgan and Joe, for joining us. And thanks, Nathan.
I forgot one other, Morgan Smith. I would love that.
I honestly thought about. I was like, should it be corny and include like someone I know? But no, yeah, for sure. Morgan, Joe, amazing alumni. Which is crazy that you're alumni. Like one day you might be on those lists. You never know.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we might.
We have a lot of hurdles to get over first. Oh my goodness. Thank you for
thanks for joining me and Nathan. And I hope whatever happens after Princeton, I'm so interested to see where life takes you. I'm always going to be a fan of both of you. Yeah, this was fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nathan and Susan. I love Peas in a Pod, and I was very happy to make an appearance.
Thanks again. This was a lot of fun. A great thought experiment. Thank you for having us.